Kristin Omdahl, and welcome back to the beach. This is Little Hickory. I decided to change it up today. It's the beach, the birds, Barefoot, Bonita, and Little Hickory all right next to each other, so they're all pretty close to where I normally go. Anyway, today's question, actually, I really can't say who it came from because it's come so many times that I've gotten the question on YouTube, I've gotten it on Facebook, I've gotten it on Instagram, in my email box, in comments on my website. It's a really common question, and as much as I would love to answer it completely, there are whole books written about it. But I'll do my best to come up with some of the basics. And the question is, how do you know what yarn to choose for your project? And oh my gosh, there are so many things you can ask yourself to determine what kind of yarn is right for your project. And actually it reminds me of something that someone told me a long time ago when I first started working in the business world. And they said there's three things that you need to ask yourself. Do you want it good, fast, or cheap? And you can pick two. And if you think about it, there really is, you can actually apply that to so many different things. So, and that's a whole conversation in itself. But what you want to do is really think about, obviously, how much money you want to spend. That's a given. How much time do you want to spend on your project? Who is the project going to be for? How do you intend to take care of the project? So, let's just start with that. So, obviously price, right? But price, you know, I think that should be last. There's so many more components before price that you need to narrow it down in other ways, because just working on price means you could completely miss the boat on what you're really trying to do. So, oh, and then there's fiber, obviously. But let's even just think about who it's for. Are you making, let's say, a baby blanket for a mom-to-be? Okay, great. How do you really want to tell a new mom that she has to hand wash a baby blanket or a baby outfit? No. That would be asking way too much of a new mom. So you want to make sure that that one's machine washable. So right there, there's a component that's already going to narrow down your search for what kind of yarn you're going to use for that. Are you making a sweater for yourself? Okay, great. Do you want it to be fast, or do you want it, if you're going to use a really thick yarn, it's going to be fast, right? But by using a really thick yarn, you're also going to be having something that's really bulky on your body. And is that going to look good? You'd have to be really, really thin to pull off a really chunky sweater and still look good. So now you've decided that a thick yarn isn't going to. So now you've narrowed it down to being something that's at least worsted weight or thinner. You're not going to make a super bulky sweater. I mean, yes, would it be great to make a sweater in 3 hours? For sure. But what's the point in making something if you're not going to wear it? Okay, and then now there's fiber. Let's say, what time of year are you going to be wearing this garment? Is it something that's to keep you super warm in a windy New York winter? Or is it something that you want to look, is it something for evening? You know, a super bulky animal fiber, a wool, alpaca, or mohair would be fantastic for a cowl or an outerwear piece. Or bamboo and silk would be beautiful for a slinky, sexy shawl to wear on a date or on a cruise to the Caribbean. So fiber is something that's across the board good for all sorts of different things, but not every fiber is good for every project. Are you going to do something with lace that you want to block it? Do you want something that has memory? Do you want something that has texture? Do you want something that has stitch definition? Are you doing cables, lace? Oh, I could go on. And how do you, and going back to the washing thing, this is so important. Because it's not just about making the project. If you're just a process knitter or crocheter and you just make to make and you give to charity, that's fine too. You know, you can just make Afghans all day and feel good about what you're doing. That's wonderful. But if you're going to make garments and projects that you want to use and keep and cherish for a long time, it's really important to have forethought about choosing your yarn to make sure that you pick the right thing, right yarn for the right project. So, is it a feltable wool versus a superwash? Really important to know if you're going to throw it in the washing machine, right? In fact, I would love to pose a question back to all of you and say, give me specifics on a type of a project, and then I can narrow it down and give you a lot more information about how to choose a yarn for a specific type of a project. Because even though I am explaining it right now, I'm realizing it's coming across vague because there's just so much information and so many variables with so many different kinds of projects. Oh, the way the yarn's twisted. There's a Z and an S twist for the different ways that yarn is twisted. Either one works fine for knitting, but only one works well for crochet. There's just, you could go on and on. There's, like I said, there's huge books written about it. So even though I can't tell you everything there is to know about yarn and how to pick the right one for your projects, what I want you to understand is you have to ask yourself questions about what your goal is in the project and how it's going to be used. And if you have specific questions about projects or yarn, I can really narrow it down even more. But there's just so many things to consider that you really do need to have a lot of forethought when picking your yarn. Obviously, if you're picking a pattern that calls for a yarn already and it's perfect and you can just buy the same thing, that's easy. But I guess when it comes to substituting or even designing on your own, or just exploring the whole world of yarn, there's just, you could go on all day and still not touch on everything. So please leave me some detailed questions about it, and I'll be happy to answer as well as I can. And obviously, and please leave me your other questions, because this has been so much fun and I want to continue doing it. I'm headed out on my walk now, so have a wonderful day and I'll talk to you soon. Bye!